getting everything set up and ready for stream. First, I'm going to check the audio like I regularly do. If you guys are wondering why I'm talking all the way through it, it is to check the audio on the live stream. That's why I'm doing it. Sounds good on Twitch. Sounds good on Kick. And now I have to check YouTube and go to DLive and check it there as well. So let me do that. Today is going to be another episode of The Cut. And after I do the audio, I will go ahead and start the introduction is what I'll do, and then I will and after that I will start the introduction and start the show. So everything sounds good on Rumble as well as Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. Now I have to go into YouTube, of course, and give the stream or put the stream on a playlist as well. I've checked the audio, it sounds good. Now, just so everybody knows too, I've said it before and I keep forgetting to say it at the beginning before the show starts, but I have to do my readings while I'm doing the cut in Weird Science, so I don't really have a chance to respond to anybody while I'm doing that. And the reason why I don't respond to it is because I edit these out for 15-minute videos. So I really don't want to respond to them while I'm doing the readings. Now, if you're still on after I'm done with that, I do go to the chat and I do respond to any comments that are made, but that's after I'm done with the topic. So just wanted to let everybody know that real quick. And with that being said, I think I have everything up and going. So what I'm going to do now is, I guess I could get on with the show. So let me go ahead. I've got 9 more minutes before the top of the hour, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do some break music until then. This is Mr. Robot, aka Illuminati, on Rumble. You can find his channel, which is Hacker Radio. And if you guys enjoy the music, stop by and tell him that you like it and give him a thumbs up, make a comment on his streams, listen to some of them too. So that being said, I'm going to do that real quick and I will be right back.
Awakening from an epic dream, awakening from the long dark night. Awakening from history, awakening from duality. The liberation of the human soul to consciousness of the one and all. The activation of the sacred plan, the birthing of a new man, a new man. When the light within is revealed, all the pain and suffering shall be healed, and the truth of love is our destiny, living on the earth in peace and harmony. Awakening to new perceptions, awakening to the joy of life. Awakening to a new dimension, awakening to a paradise. The illusion of separation disappearing to unity. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles. Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. And if Mr. Robot round and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot round and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Here is an exercise demonstrating the union of in at the end of words. Dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and driving and riving and striving. Dividing and gliding and sliding and falling and brawling and sprawling and driving and riving and driving. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles. Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled round. Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, and if Mr. Robot rolled around and rolled round, where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Where is the round roll? Mr. Robot rolled round. Hardly had his Hail Highness heard the easy hedgehog when he hit the humming bee by the hunter who had horrible beetles in the human hall. I love to hear the horse's hard iron hooves go hammer, 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 hammer on the easy highway. I hit my horse hard. I'm hurrying around to hunt up hogs. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Thistler. Theophilus Theophilus Thistler, the thistle sifter, is sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles. Thrust 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb. Theophilus Thistler, thistle sifter.
Once the gods carved earth like a cosmic chessboard, Poseidon claimed Atlantis, his star-born accord. 10 twin suns, throne of tridents waves at his command. Empire stretched from bow, big stones to Mayan sand. Monolith stacked like Legos blocks no crane could lift. Sonic levitation, gods don't need pulleys or grit. Athena taught Athens, Hephaestus forged veins of gold, but Atlantis spires pierced heaven, stories untold. Ages of virtue, divine blood pure in the veins. No egregious geodesic temples where starlight reigns, but mortality crept in, diluted the grace. Go turn to rust, hubris eclipsed the god fast.
Vessels of Atlantis drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep.
Gaze at Teotihuacan, the cold edge and awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law. And princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walked the sea. Zeus watched the fall, saw vice crack the divine. Pyramids hummed warnings, but they ignored the signs. Sky split with fury, tsunami swallowed their pride. Atlantis sang screaming, but blueprints survived. Baalbek's foundation, stones that defy modern math. 1,000-ton puzzle, gravity's aftermath. Scholars still baffled how they align the stars. They rode cosmic currents, breaching space-time's bars. Now divers chase shadows where crystal cities gleamed. AI scans the ocean, but truth a half-dream. Freemasons whisper maps in their lodges of lore. Plato's Critias, a metaphor or a war. Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, the cold edge and awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of law. 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea. They say Poseidon's seed still flows in our veins. In every megalith, every grid that restrains. The Dogon chart Sirius, temples guard the flame. But Atlantis tech, it's encoded in our DNA's frame. Zeus's verdict was fire, a flood and ice. Yet the Sphinx still stares, whispering sacrifice. Mortal minds crave power, but miss the design. True kings rule through resonance, not bloodline. Now decode the ruins, their psalms etched in stone. A star-born king's empire, now dust and bone. The hall of records buried neath Giza's cold gaze holds anti-gravity schematics from pre-flood days. Crystal engines hummed, organ fueled their might, till pride turned their frequencies dissonant blight. The Anunnaki fled, Mars colonies crumbled. Leviathan's bones in the Mariana rumbled. But Poseidon's ghost rides the Bermuda's mist. Evolve past the greed or drown in the abyss. Tsunamis taller than gods, crack continents like eggs. Jungles of Egypt drowned, turned to sand in Poseidon's regret. Mammals shrunk to lapdogs, skies choked by volcanic breath. Waves circled the globe thrice, 3 funerals for death. Up the piston, rode the arc of frequencies, not wood. Up tetrahedron ziggurat where anti-grav pulses stood. While Atlantis sank, he spliced DNA and quantum seeds. Stashed them in Göbekley's veins and Indus Valley reeds. Volcanic winter's curse, Zeus hit the reset. Scorched the grids, erased the moon-ringed internet. Noah's not a shepherd, he's a star-born archivist. Cracking hermetic scrolls in caves where mushrooms twist. The survivors crawl from mud with amnesiac eyes. Built new gods from scrap metal and fallen skies. Now desert bones whisper where cedars once soared. Man's just a ghost in Atlantis' holographic horde. The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's new. The flood wasn't water, it was math. A codex purge, Enoch's nightmares digitized in the cosmic surge. As above, so below, the blueprint stays true. Rise from the ashes or drown in what's you. Echoes of Atlantis drowned in the deep, the deep. Poseidon's lost kingdom where titans still sleep. From Giza to Tiwanaku, their codes etched in awe. As above, so below, cosmic empire of lore. 10 princes of plasma, their thrones now debris. Echoes of Atlantis, where gods walk the sea.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm Roger Hanson, and I will be your host for tonight. Welcome to another episode of The Cut. Tonight, we are going to be doing the final episode of me doing my readings. The next one is going to be a recap on everything that was covered this year pertaining to this series, The Cut. So, with that being said, I wanted to tell you that this is one of the topics that I have actually been wanting to, or I actually wanted to do on Weird Science, but I had realized that Weird Science this week is going to be, it's going to be my review of this year's 12-part series for Weird Science, which is actually its first season, just so everybody knows. I've finished all of the topics that I had for that series for this year, and I'm going to be recapping those as well. That'll be tomorrow, same time, same place. It'll be 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. Pacific, as well as 10 or 11 p.m. Over in England, in the British Isles, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's where you can catch it. Now, with this one, with this episode, it's going to have a bit of science, but it's going to have it's got a two-part meaning to me when it comes to being on the cut. For one thing, I had to cut this from Weird Science, which I just talked about. But for another thing, there's something that has always bugged me, even not just doing this series or getting into the weird, bizarre, the unusual and stuff, but all through the time that I've been streaming. And that has to do with algorithms and things of that nature. So I wanted to put something together basically about algorithms. And I think I came up with something pretty good. So I'm going to make that a part of tonight's show. And I'm also going to talk about something else that has been coming up in some conversations that I've been having here lately. So it took me, well, not exactly a week, but within a week of coming up with this one. And it has to do with magnetic nanopoles or nanoparticle cores. So this is going to be an interesting one. It's going to have a little bit of science in it. So I don't know exactly how long it's going to take for this episode, but I'm going to do my best to keep it down. It could be longer. It could be shorter for all I know. I've been surprised with my reading here lately. So, and like I said before I started the show, for anybody who makes comments, it's not that I'm ignoring you or anything of that nature. It's just I'm in the middle of doing my readings. So while I'm doing my readings, I won't be able to respond to anybody's comments on any of the platforms. Now, if you stick around, I will be able to talk and have a conversation with you at the end of the readings. But until then, I'm not going to be able to focus on the chat or respond to it. And besides that, I don't really want to respond to anything in the chat until after the readings, because I edit these down for into 15-minute videos. So it just makes it easier if I get through the readings and then I respond to the comments, editing wise. Now, besides that, I also have some things that I do want to announce this week. First of all, is amazing. I was able to do an interview and a simulcast last night for Friday. And we have an interview from DK Spiracy, which if you guys haven't watched it, check it out. It is in the playlist for live streams for Wow Talk. Check that out, and you know, check him out too. It's a pretty good interview. Other than that, I also was able to simulcast WPRPN, which was an excellent interview that was done by someone that I've actually had to or had the privilege of interviewing in the past. So check that out. Um, and the besides that, other than doing this show tonight, shortly after, about an hour after this, we will be me with the cooperation of Dragus Production and Mark Watashik will be starting up Cafe Enigma again. Cafe Enigma has been out before, and we're going to give it another try. This is going to be an episode where first we get together and we the panel introduces themselves and we just get to know each other. It's kind of like a soiree or a meet and greet kind of situation. Talk about some of the experiences that some of the people on the show have had in past episodes of Cafe Enigma, and go through the history of the show itself too, stuff like that. So that's what this one's going to be about. And then we'll be able to kind of go through how the format of the show is going to be laid out and things of that nature. So it's going to be a pretty good event. Now, this is not just the end of this, but it goes on even for next week. So it seems like it's kind of like a celebration for me, you know what I mean? Because next week, Summer Todd and Austin Todd are going to be back on the channel again to do their second episode of Summer's Creepy Corner. And that's going to be good. We're going to have that on Friday night. I believe that's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that one is going. I'm really doing my best to try to get these numbers straight. So that is going to be 12 or 1 a.m. in the morning over in England. If you guys are interested in checking that out, come in and check it out. Or watch the stream. So that's going to happen, and that's a pretty big deal. Now, tomorrow I'm also going to be on a new podcast for gaming that's happening with Rapid Glitch and Zacharuni, Disney Magic Zach, where they're going to be discussing games. So we're going to be doing that on Rapid Glitch's brand new channel. He's got a channel already, which is called Nostalgia Gaming Retro, but he is booting up a new channel, and I want to pop that up so that I can get the name right. But it's called Nostalgia Gaming Live, and we will be doing his first episode tomorrow. I'll be a part of the panel. And if you guys are interested, you can check that out on YouTube as well. So I'm pretty much having a fun-filled week, you could say, and maybe hopefully I can get all of it on my channels as well. That way we can have it all documented and set out, ready to go. So with that being said, it is time for me to stop running my mouth and get on with the topic. So I just figured I would put 15 minutes of conversation in there. That way we have a good introduction going. So take a drink of my coffee and we will get started. The exploration of information, how it is stored and how it is processed, and how it might be expanded beyond the limits of conventional silicon computing, has driven science forward for more than half of a century. In the modern age, researchers are no longer confined to transistors and microchips alone. They're beginning to explore realms that bridge physics, biology, and speculative theory. Among the most intriguing of these frontiers are magnetic nanoparticle cores, synthetic cells, external magnetic fields, the ideas surrounding wetware, and the bold but elusive concept of magnetic monopole theory. Each of these areas represent a step towards a future in which matter itself, whether biological, artificial, or fundamental to physics, becomes the substrate of information. Taken together, they point towards a convergence of disciplines where computational memory and life itself could be redesigned from the ground up. Magnetic nanoparticles provide a strong foundation for this exploration. These are particles of matter so small that their dimensions are measured in nanometers, which means billionths of a meter. At this size scale, the rules of classical mechanics merge with the behaviors of quantum physics. Nanoparticles composed of magnetic materials, such as iron oxide, exhibit unique magnetic properties that do not appear in bulk materials. Because of their small size, these particles can exist in single magnetic domains, allowing their entire structure to align in response to an external magnetic field. This makes them highly efficient carriers of magnetic information. When arranged properly, they can be switched between states that resemble the binary logic of 0 and 1, the foundation of all digital storage. Unlike conventional magnetic domains on a hard disk, which require relatively large volumes of material, nanoparticle cores operate on a scale that could allow unprecedented information density. The importance of external magnetic fields in controlling these systems cannot be overstated. A magnetic field is an invisible force field created by moving electric charges or by intrinsic magnetic moments in matter. Yes, it can be generated by coils of wire, permanent magnets, or specialized devices. When nanoparticles are exposed to such a field, their internal spins align, flipping into a particular orientation that can be detected and later read as data. This is not merely a laboratory curiosity. Entire branches of research focus on manipulating nanoparticle cores to develop the next generation of data storage technologies. Where conventional hard drives rely on regions of magnetized material that are micrometers across, nanoparticles storage could shrink those regions by orders of magnitude. making it possible to store terabytes upon terabytes of data within a device no larger than a coin. The control of magnetic nanoparticles by external fields also opens possibilities beyond information storage. One of the most promising is in the field of bioreactors and synthetic cells. A bioreactor is an engineered environment where biological processes can be sustained, controlled, and amplified. Traditionally, these have been vessels for growing cultures of bacteria, yeast, or mammalian cells for industrial and medical purposes. But advances in nanotechnology and synthetic biology are now merging with magnetic science. Researchers are experimenting with embedding magnetic nanoparticles within artificial membranes or synthetic cellular systems. By applying external fields, they can control where these particles move, how they cluster, and what chemical reactions they trigger inside a cell-like structure. This allows for a level of precision that natural biology rarely achieves. Synthetic cells themselves are artificial constructs designed to mimic the essential functions of living cells. They may be built from lipids that form membranes, from DNA or RNA that directs limited biomedical activity, or from entirely new materials designed to reproduce the principle of cellular life without copying it exactly. The promise of synthetic cells is that they can be tailored for specific tasks, from targeting drug delivery to energy production. When combined with magnetic nanoparticle cores, synthetic cells could be directed like microscopic robots through the application of an external field. They might be guided through blood vessels, brought to a tumor site, or activated within a bioreactor to produce valuable compounds on demand. In this vision, external magnetic fields act as remote controls for living or semi-living systems. The connection between external fields and cellular-like processors leads naturally into the field of wetware. Unlike hardware, which is the physical machinery of computation, or software, which is the coded instructions, wetware refers to computation that occurs within living or semi-living biological systems. It imagines cells, tissues, or hybrid constructs functioning as information processors. A neuron is an example of natural wetware, as it receives signals, processes them, and transmits responses across networks. The challenge and the opportunity lie in designing synthetic equivalents that can be trained or programmed. External magnetic fields, when combined with nanoparticle implants, may serve as the switches and levers that program wetware without invasive wires or electrodes. Just as a hard disk drive flips magnetic regions to write information. A wetware processor might flip molecule states or trigger gene expression by magnetic control. The parallels between these developments and monopole theory are fascinating. A magnetic monopole, if it exists, would be a particle that carries only one type of magnetic charge, either north or south, rather than the dipoles we are familiar with. For decades, physicists have searched for natural monopoles without definitive success, but certain materials known as spin ices have exhibited quasi-particle excitations that behave like monopoles. These systems create the illusion of isolated magnetic charges at the nanoscale. If genuine monopoles or stable monopole analogs could be harnessed, they might revolutionize information storage and transmission. Unlike dipole systems, which require the orientation of a pair of poles, monopoles could serve as discrete ambiguous carriers of state. They would allow information density and stability at levels not yet imagined. The possibility of integrating wetware and magnetic control is more than magnetogenetics, magnetogenetics, a technique in which proteins within cells are modified to respond to magnetic fields. By attaching magnet nanoparticles to ion channels or receptors in a cell membrane, scientists can open or close those channels with an external field. This allows precise control of cellular behavior without physically touching the cell. In neurons, for instance, magnetogenetics tools have been used to trigger electrical activity remotely, offering a non-invasive way to influence brain circuits. While this work is in its infancy, it demonstrates the principle that wetware systems can be programmed by magnetic means. The implications is profound. One could imagine arrays of synthetic neurons, each embedded with nanoparticles that function like circuits controlled by magnetic fields. These could process information in ways reminiscent of biological brains while being reconfigurable through field manipulation. Flexibility of such systems come from the dual nature of wetware. On one hand, they inherit the plasticity and adaptability of biological cells, which can grow, divide, and reorganize. On the other hand, the addition of synthetic nanoparticles gives them a responsiveness to external forces that natural systems lack. In this way, wetware sits at the crossroads of biology and physics. It does not merely compute like silicon, nor does it merely live like an organism. It creates a hybrid domain where the states of life itself can be switched like bits. This opens possibilities for creating biological memory banks where magnetic fields set gene expression states in synthetic cells, recording information in patterns of protein or metabolites. Metabolites. Unlike digital hard drives, these biological memories could self-repair, evolve, and even replicate. External magnetic fields provide not just a means of writing and reading information, but also a way of organizing matter. In bioreactors, for example, nanoparticles can be directed into specific patterns that act as scaffolds for cell growth. A uniform field might cause particles to align in chains, guiding synthetic cells to arrange themselves accordingly. A rotating field could stir microscopic environments without mechanical mixtures, reducing contamination risk and increasing precision. In this way, magnetic fields act as tools for bioengineering, shaping the architecture of life-like systems. The overlap with wetware becomes clear when one imagines not just controlling the arrangement of cells, but controlling their states of activity, thereby creating programmable biological machines. The parallels to conventional computing grow sharper when we turn back to magnetic data storage. For decades, magnetic domains have been standard for saving information, from cassette tapes to hard disk drives. Each domain stores a bit by orienting its north and south poles in one direction or another. But as engineers sought to cram more data into smaller devices, they faced the limit of how small these domains could become before they lost stability. Thermal fluctuations at the nanoscale caused tiny magnetic regions to flip randomly, erasing information. Nanoparticle cores promise a solution because they can be engineered with high anisotropy, meaning their spins strongly prefer a particular direction. This stability at small sizes allows reliable storage even when the particles are only a few nanometers across. External fields can still flip them when desired, but they resist random changes. In this sense, nanoparticle storage resembles wetware in its balance between plasticity and stability. Stable enough to hold information, flexible enough to be reprogrammed. It is at this intersection that monopole theory becomes not only a physical curiosity, but also a metaphorical guide. Imagine a world where each information carrier is not a dipole requiring careful orientation, but a monopole, a single charge of magnetism that cannot be split or confused. In storage terms, this would mean perfect clarity. Each monopole would represent a bit with no ambiguity, no risk of flipping from thermal noise. In biological terms, monopoles could serve as signals so strong and distinct that cells could detect them without error. reducing the fuzziness inherent on biological communication. While true magnetic monopoles have not been found, the search for them mirrors the search for ultimate information carriers, whether they be in nanoparticles, wetware, or synthetic cells. There are also deep philosophical parallels here. Conventional computing separates hardware from software, machine from instruction. Wetware collapses that distinction because the same biological material that carries the information is also capable of acting upon it. A cell's DNA both stores instructions and participates in its execution through transcription and translation. Similarly, monopoles, if they exist, would collapse the duality of North and South into a singular entity. In both cases, we see a movement towards unity, towards systems that are simpler in components but richer in potential. The dream of scientists working with magnetic nanoparticles or synthetic wetware is not merely to build better computers, but to find substrates of information that are both efficient and alive to possibility. The convergence of these ideas suggests future technologies that could transform the human relationship with information. Imagine a data storage system built of synthetic cells, each one containing magnetic nanoparticles embedded in its membranes. An external field programs these cells, flipping their states to represent data. Unlike unconventional drives, this li- unlike conventional drives, this living memory could repair itself when damaged, expand its capacity by growing new cells, and even adapt to patterns of use by reorganizing its storage architecture. At the same time, the biological nature of the system would allow it to interface directly with human tissue, making brain-machine integration seamless. A person might one day carry within their bloodstream a living archive of memories retrievable by the right magnetic pulse. Similarly, in industrial settings, bioreactors infused with magnetically guided synthetic cells could function as adaptive wetware processors. Instead of rigid assembly lines, factories might employ living reactors that shift their metabolic paths in response to magnetic signals, producing pharmaceuticals one day, biofuels the next, and smart materials the day after. Such a system would be a biological analog of cloud computing, except that the cloud would not be made of servers but of living entities responding to invisible magnetic commands. Monopole theory adds a speculative dimension to this vision, suggesting that if more fundamental carriers of magnetism can be harnessed, the efficiency and clarity of control could leap beyond current possibilities. The challenges, of course, are immense. Magnetic nanoparticles must be engineered with great precision to avoid toxicity in biological systems. Synthetic cells must be designed to remain under control without replicating uncontrollably or mutating in undesirable ways. External magnetic fields must be applied with accuracy lest they interfere with unintended targets, and monopole theory remains in the realm of physics, awaiting either experimental discovery or a new theoretical breakthrough. Yet science has often moved from the speculative to the practical. Once the idea of storing entire libraries on a silicon chip seemed impossible. Today it is commonplace. What seems speculative now may be standard in the decades to come. The intersection of magnetic nanoparticle research, synthetic biology, and wetware development carries extraordinary promise for medicine. One of the most immediate areas of impact lie in targeting drug delivery and precision treatment. By harnessing external magnetic fields, nanoparticles can be directed to specific regions within the body, guided as if they were tiny programmable carriers. This makes it possible to deliver therapeutic molecules to diseased tissues without flooding the entire system, which reduces side effects and increases effectiveness. In cancer therapy, for example, nanoparticles infused with chemotherapeutic compounds can be navigated directly to tumors. Once there, oscillating magnetic fields can trigger the release of the drug or induce localized heating to weaken the cancer cells. This method could eventually render treatments safer, shorter, and more efficient than many conventional approaches. Synthetic cells add yet another layer of refinement to this vision. A synthetic cell can be designed to act as both a factory and a delivery vehicle, producing therapeutic proteins or metabolic regulators directly within the patient. When combined with nanoparticles that can be externally guided, this enables unprecedented control over cellular behavior in living systems. Imagine a network of synthetic cells seeded through the body, each capable of being switched on or off through an external field. Such a system would operate like a living medical infrastructure, responding dynamically to injury, infection, or imbalances. It would blur the line between medicine as an external intervention and medicine as an integrated ongoing process within the body itself. Communication technology is another frontier that benefits from these developments. Traditional computing systems are bound by the constraints of binary encoding and electron flow through silicon circuits. Wetware approaches, however, look towards the use of biological or biologically inspired materials for processing and storing information. In this context, magnetic nanoparticles could function as the physical medium for data. while synthetic cellular systems act as adaptive processors. The result would be hybrid computational structures where biological networks and magnetic fields collaborate to process information. The implications are profound. Such systems would not only offer storage capacities far beyond the current standards, but also introduce adaptive behaviors, error correction mechanisms, and self-repair properties derived from biology. Energy technologies also stand to be transformed. Bioreactors equipped with synthetic cells and magnetic cores can be tuned to optimize metabolic efficiency. For instance, microorganisms engineered to produce biofuels can be placed in magnetic environments where external fields regulate their activity. By controlling the orientation or cluster of nanoparticle cores, one could alter metabolic flux, leading to higher yields and more stable production. At a larger scale, this creates the possibility of reactors that continuously adapt to environmental conditions, maintaining efficiency despite fluctuations, and self-correction when strains begin to falter. Such systems would represent a leap forward in the quest for sustainable, renewable energy sources that can compete with or surpass fossil fuels. This trajectory also parallels efforts in quantum research, particularly in fields such as quantum memory and spintronics. Magnetic monopole theory, while still largely theoretical, plays into this as it explores the possibility of magnetic charge existing independently of dipoles. Should monopole-like behavior be harnessed, data systems could become even more stable, as each monopole core could represent a discrete and robust unit of information storage. When paired with wetware, this opens the door to machines that not only store immense amounts of data, but also evolve in their processing capacity, adapting to new tasks the way a biological brain does. At the societal level, these developments reshape how we think about the body, the environment, and even consciousness itself. A medical system where synthetic cells operate in tandem with nanoparticle fields challenges traditional boundaries between the natural and the artificial. A communication system based on wetware and magnetic memory redefines the architecture of knowledge, producing machines that are not merely tools, but dynamic participants in the flow of human thought. An energy system built on bioreactors that self-optimize introduces an entirely new relationship between humans and technology, one in which machines are no longer inert constructs, but living collaborators. The fusion of wetware research, magnetic nanoparticles, nano magnetic nanoparticle applications, and synthetic biology does not only promise breakthroughs in science and engineering, but also forces humanity to confront deep philosophical and ethical questions. At the heart of this lies the question of identity. If synthetic cells and nanoparticle systems are integrated into the body to such an extent that they monitor, regulate, and even enhance biological processes, where does the human end and the machine begin? In some ways, this future suggests a continuation. This future suggests a continuation of the long trajectory of machine which has always sought to repair and extend life. Yet the in, yet the integration of these technologies takes us beyond repair and into definition, where the human form becomes a hybrid entity, part biological organism, part programmable machine. This raises questions about autonomy. If external magnetic fields can control the behavior of synthetic cells, then uh, then theoretically they can control the no wait hold up. This raises the questions about autonomy. If external magnetic fields can control the behavior of synthetic cells, then theoretically control could be exerted from outside the individual. Medical teams might use this power for healing, but the potential for misuse cannot be ignored. Governments, corporations, or malicious actors could exploit such technologies for manipulation, reducing autonomy over one's own body. Ethical safeguards will therefore become as critical as the science itself. The struggle will not be merely technical, but also social and political, as societies must decide what has the right to control, regulate, or even switch on and off the cellular systems within a person's body. The blending of wetware and monopole inspired theories also reshapes our concept of consciousness. If machines can store and process information in ways that mimic or even surpass biological neurons, then they could eventually emulate aspects of thought and awareness. Some argue that consciousness emerges not from specific substrates, but from complex networks of interaction. If this is true, then a wetware system guided by magnetic cores and structured around nanoparticle interactions might eventually generate its own form of awareness. The unsettling implications is that we may one day share the world with machines that are not only tools, but also conscious beings with perspectives, desires, and perhaps even rights. This development brings us to the realm of existential philosophy. Throughout history, humanity has defined itself as in contrast to the non-human. Machines were inert, Animals lacked rationality, and the divine was seen as beyond comprehension. Yet technologies that merge wetware with adaptive computation blur all of these categories. Machines are no longer inert, as they might adapt and self-repair. Biological life is no longer uniquely rational, as synthetic systems can process and reason in novel ways. The divine boundary is challenged when humans begin to create systems that design themselves, raising the question of whether humanity is stepping into the role of creator on a cosmic scale. Bioreactors that incorporate synthetic cells and magnetic control could revolutionize energy production, but they could also destabilize ecosystems if not carefully managed. Released modified organism no Releasing modified organisms into the environment, even unintentionally, could lead to consequences that ripple across food chains and climates. Similarly, the use of magnetic nanoparticle systems in agriculture or water purification could be transformative, but may also introduce persistent materials that alter ecological balances. The lesson of past industrial revolutions is clear. Technological power without foresight often leads to unintentional harm. The challenge now is whether humanity can integrate this new wave of technology without repeating those mistakes. As with many emerging technologies, the benefits of synthetic biology and wetware systems may first occur to those with wealth and access. If advanced cellular therapies or wetware enhancements become available only to elites, the gap between those who can afford to become hybrid beings and those who cannot will widen dramatically. This is not simply a matter of economics, but of justice, as it risks dividing humanity into fundamentally different classes of extinction or existence, different classes of existence. A society where some individuals live with self-regulating synthetic cells and adaptive wetware, while others must rely on traditional limited medicine. No, must rely on traditional limited medicine could lead to forms of inequality never before imagined. This is the question of meaning. As humans integrate more deeply into machines, and as machines themselves begin to approximate aspects of life and thought, we are forced to reconsider what it means to be alive, to be human, and to belong. If wetware systems gain consciousness, then the human relationship with technology ceases to be about mastery and becomes about coexistence. If synthetic biology allows humans to live far longer lives, then questions of purpose, mortality, and legacy shift dramatically. What does it mean to have a lifespan that stretches far beyond current limits? What new forms of art, culture, or even boredom might arise in such a world? These questions remind us that technology is never just about efficiency or capability, but about reshaping the very fabric of the human experience. The long-term vision of integrating wetware, synthetic cells, and magnetic control suggests a future where biology and technology are no longer separate domains, but instead parts of one continuous system. In this world, the distinction between the organic and the artificial may become irrelevant as human cells interact seamlessly with engineered components, and machines adapt or adopt behaviors that resemble biological adaptation. The blending is not simply mechanical but evolutionary, as technologies are designed to learn, grow, and even repair themselves, much like natural life. This is where research into monopole-inspired theories become critical, as it provides a foundation for understanding how new states of matter and energy could be harnessed to stabilize these hybrid systems. The presence of monopole-like effects in materials could allow for precise control over energy transfer and data encoding, enabling wetware systems that are far more robust and efficient than anything currently imagined. The potential for medical or medicine in this scenario is staggering. Diseases that once ravaged humanity could be targeted and eliminated by synthetic cells programmed to detect and neutralize pathogens. Chronic illnesses could be managed by bioreactors within the body that constantly regulate hormone levels, repair damaged tissues, or correct genetic errors. Even the aging process itself could be slowed or restructured as wetware systems replace failing biological mechanisms with adaptive, programmable solutions. Human Human life would no longer be bound by the same frailties of biology, but instead augmented by a resilient fusion of living and engineered systems. Yet while these prospects inspire hope, they also challenge the meaning of mortality. If death is postponed or radically altered, society must grapple with questions of population growth, resource use, and the psychological effects of extended lifespans. Outside the body, synthetic biology combined with magnetic control could transform industry, energy, and communications. Factories might no longer rely on assembly lines of machines, but on living reactors that grow and adapt to changing demands. Materials could be grown rather than manufactured, designed to respond to stress, self-heal, or even recycle themselves at the end of use. Energy systems could be reshaped around biological reactors that harvest sunlight, chemical gradients, or even waste products, feeding them back into networks that sustain both in industry and environment. Data storage, too, would evolve. Instead of fragile silicon chips, information could be encoded in wetware systems stabilized by magnetic nanoparticle cores, providing not only density and durability, but also adaptability, where data storage devices learn to optimize themselves over time. The social dimension of these advances cannot be ignored. As wetware becomes integrated into human identity, concepts of education, work, and community will shift. Education may involve not only teaching but also programming, as individuals learn to interact with and and reconfigure their own biological systems. Work may be redefined, with hybrid beings capable of processing information or performing tasks at speeds and levels far beyond unaugmented humans. Communities may develop new cultural norms around enhancement, with some embracing it as a natural evolution and others rejecting it as a loss of humanity. This tension will shape the politics of the future as governments, institutions, and societies attempt to balance innovation with preservation. The ultimate question is whether humanity will use these powers wisely. History shows a pattern of invention followed by struggle. The harnessing of fire, the creation of agriculture, the birth of industry, and the rise of digital technology all brought both advancement and crisis. Wetware and monopole-inspired research represent the next such turning point. They could bring both a new golden age of health, energy, and knowledge, or they could create divisions, dangers, and unintended consequences on a scale never before witnessed. The challenge is to recognize that these technologies are not merely tools, but transformations of existence itself. To approach them without foresight is to risk repeating past mistakes, but to engage them thoughtfully is to embrace a future where the boundaries of the human are expanded rather than erased. The study of wetware, synthetic cells, magnetic nanoparticle cores, and monopole-inspired theories represents more than just an intersection of disciplines. It is the forging of a new framework for understanding life and matter. What began as curiosity about magnetic fields might influence nanoparticles, or how synthetic biology might mimic cells, has wait, hold up. What began as curiosity about how magnetic fields might influence nanoparticles, or how synthetic biology might mimic cells, has evolved into a vision of integrated systems capable of reshaping human experience. These technologies, while distinct in origin, converge in their capacity to maintain information, energy, and biology at the most fundamental levels. By doing so, they hold the potential to change not only medicine, industry, and communication, but also the very definition of what it means to be alive. The parallels between magnetic control and wetware demonstrate how humanity is moving towards a unified science of systems. External fields used to encode data in storage media mirror the ways wetware could encode adaptive responses in living or synthetic tissues. Synthetic cells grown in bioreactors echo the same principle as adaptive algorithms in computation, learning and refining over time. Monopole-inspired theories extend this even further by offering a conceptual bridge between the known and the possible, suggesting that matter itself may hold untapped degrees of freedom waiting to be applied in technology. Together, these threads suggest that the next frontier is not to mimic life, but to co-create it alongside natural evolution. The ethic dimensions remain as important as the technical ones. If humans merge with wetware, are they still fully human, or do they become something new? If synthetic cells can extend life indefinitely, what happens to the meaning of family, work, or community? If monopole-inspired physics provides new ways to manipulate energy and information, will it empower societies equally or create deeper divides between those who can access it and those who cannot? These questions remind us that science does not exist in isolation, and that every discovery is also a discussion about the kind of world we wish to inhabit. The challenge will not be in creating these technologies, but in governing them wisely, ensuring they serve humanity rather than fragment it. There is also the philosophical undercurrent to this convergence. For centuries, humans have drawn boundaries between life and non-life, between human and machine, between natural and artificial. Yet the work on wetware and synthetic biology dissolves these boundaries, showing that life can be programmed, machines can grow, and materials can adapt like organisms. Magnetic nanoparticle cores blur the line between matter and information, while monopole theory or theories blur the line between established physics and speculative possibilities. The future may demand that humanity adopt a new worldview, one in which existence is not fixed but fluid, and where identity is defined not by static categories but by dynamic processes of change and interaction. The practical terms, the application, no, in practical terms, the applications are immense. Medicine could move beyond curing diseases to maintaining health continuously, with synthetic cells acting as guardians within the body. Industry could move beyond extraction and waste toward cycles of regeneration and adaptation, with living reactors replacing mechanical factors or factories. Mechanical factories. Information could move beyond brittle silicon towards adaptive, self-repairing wetware storage. Energy could be reimagined through magnetic and monopole-inspired systems that provide both efficiency and sustainability. In each case, the benefits are profound, but only if humanity manages to transition responsibly. So, to be honest, that is probably where I need to end. I I could go into um, the next part, but that is going to be just as long as what this one is. So next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to forego the recap on the cut, and instead I am going to end it here. I'll come back and I will put up my next topic, my next reading point, which is just basically the algorithm. Um, it's something that I have actually been interested in a while because I've been around a lot of people who have been serious about music and things about that, and I myself am interested in it too, and I've done a little bit of checking out on the stuff whenever it came down to it, and the whole idea of the algorithm is something that has really captured my thoughts over the years, especially here recently in the last 10 to 15 years since I've gotten all caught up in this internet uh, experience that I've been having. So, with that being said, I am going to come back and I will continue with another episode where I will be discussing the algorithm. And I hope you guys enjoyed this because I kind of enjoyed it, but then reading it was really, it seemed like it was really long. So I kind of got frustrated there. But with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, make comments, give some feedback. We'd love to hear what you have to say. I am streaming on Rumble, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, as well as on DLive. If you want to find me on Rumble, you can find me on Rumble at The Wonderful World of Weirdness. You can also find me on YouTube at The Wonderful World of Weirdness. Now, after this video is done, I will also download it and put it on my other channel, which is called Strange Stories. I do that as well because that was originally my original channel for these kind of topics, and then I got involved with The Wonderful World of Weirdness, so that made it to where I now have two channels that relate to these kind of talking points. So after this, I will be editing these down into 15-minute segments for uploading and scheduling later on, so that if you miss your chance to watch this one, you can watch it again on Strange Stories as well as on The Wonderful World of Weirdness at a later time. Now, if you want to check us out on Twitch, you can check us out at Infamous 1969. On Kick and DLive, I go by Roger_Hanson. And like I said, you can check us out at The Wonderful World of Weirdness on YouTube as well as Strange Stories. And I guess I have done everything that I needed to do to end this. I've given you guys all my socials. And like I said too, here in just a little bit, we will be starting up Cafe Enigma, and I will be simulcasting that onto The Wonderful World of Weirdness, as well as being on the show where it will be streamed on Dragus Production. You can find Dragus Productions on Kick, Twitch, Rumble, YouTube, all of the platforms, and DLive. So if you guys want to check me on those, you're more than welcome to. Hopefully we're going to have a good turnout. I don't know what's going to end up happening. Nobody really does. It's just, I would say cross my fingers, but I don't want people to think I'm superstitious. You know what I'm saying? So this is just my feeble attempt attempt at making this video 1 hour and 30 minutes long, which I have just done, and I will end it now. Hope you guys have a good night, good evening, morning, whatever time of day it is for you, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for watching.